Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Roberts, and as always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Roberts, and this is being recorded Sunday evening. A lot to talk about, for sure. A lot to talk about. And this is not going to be a pity party. We're not going to pull punches either. There's one thing I think is interesting. You know, sometimes we all need a little context. Got to frame some things up. Got to understand where we are, what our motivations are. There's some people out there, their only currency is anger, right? Anytime that they have an emotional situation, they react angrily. And sometimes that can be misconstrued as being negative. And there are some people that are chronically negative. There's not much you can do, right? I mean, there's nothing you can say. No matter what amount of evidence that you point out to people, or some people are going to be negative. But the evidence right now is overwhelming when it comes to Mississippi State struggles on the football field. There are a lot of people that are responsible for that. But the reality of it is, it's not about assigning blame at this point. It's about figuring out how we're going to fix it. And that task got a lot more difficult, with the news last night that Blake Shapen, Mississippi State starting quarterback, is done for the year. What's ironic about that, I was just thinking yesterday, there hadn't been a major injury around the conference. By the end of the day, it's our starting quarterback. Probably the team that could absorb a loss the worst is lost starting quarterback. Our thoughts and prayers are with Shapen and his family as he will now undergo season-ending surgery due to an injury to his shoulder. As Jeff Levy spoke with the media following the ball game, at that point, the extent of his injuries were not truly known. As he said then, I'll know more tonight and on into tomorrow. And shortly after that press conference was over, Jeff Levy was informed that Blake Shapen's done for the year. They had an opportunity to meet with the family, kind of let them know what the next steps are, and then it was communicated, and the university issues that release. We had a story ready to go instantaneously. We were going to allow the university, of course, to break that news. And it's one of those things, too, that sometimes you just get tired of getting beat on, right? That's kind of, I think, where the Mississippi State fan base is right now. It's like, hey, the football gods are not smiling on us. They're smiling on our rivals. Of course, they've played a pretty easy non-conference schedule, but it just makes it that much more difficult, right? When we're struggling and they're succeeding, you think, man, this stinks. And then you have something like this happen when Blake Shapen getting injured, and it's like, it's almost something cosmic about it, like it's out of our control. I wrote about that earlier today in a column that Mississippi State fans have a choice to make, or Mississippi State folks have a choice to make. I want to thank everybody for their positive feedback. There's always one or two malcontents out there that, one guy even said, "Hey, Steve, this is not the pep rally article that we need." Well, you know what? You don't have to get in line. I can only speak for me and mine, and I can tell you this: we're going to support Mississippi State. And sometimes we're going to support Mississippi State by saying some things that maybe aren't construed as positive. There's not a lot to feel positive about right now. There's no sunshine to pump. It's tough, man. We expected to lose that game on Saturday, and it was just really kind of more of the same in some respects on defense. Offensively, we did some good things. I thought our offense kind of kept us in the game. And I turned to Mike Nemeth when we cut it down to 28-21, and we're going to break down the game. And I turned to Mike. I said, you know what? The problem that I have with this, I just don't know if we can get back-to-back stops. We need to get a turnover or something. And we couldn't. And, of course, we had a chance to bring it to then a one-score game going to the fourth. And, the crowd was still engaged. I mean, it wasn't a capacity crowd by any stretch, but a lot of people showed up in their white clothing. It was the whiteout. A lot of people, still very much on the Bulldog bandwagon to support Mississippi State, turned out, wore their white shirts. And aren't we glad we wore white, considering how hot it was? I wore black, as usual. But it was hot. It was humid. And for those of you that braved it, thank you for coming out. By the end of the fourth quarter, probably wasn't 5,000 people there. No reason to stay, to be honest. But it is what it is. And we soldier on as a fan base. What option do you have? There's a lot of competition out there for your entertainment dollar. You know what? And if you elect to stay home, that's certainly your right. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody how to act, but I'll tell you this. Me and David Murray are headed to Austin, Texas this weekend. It's our job. A lot of other people's job too. But we're going to be there. Matter of fact, Friday, I'm going to leave Friday. I'm going to stop over in New Iberia, Louisiana, and watch one of our Louisiana commitments play. See if we can't get some information on him and get some pictures, some video, that sort of stuff. Try to make these work trips as inclusive as we can. Try to get as much done as we can. I got to make the drive anyway. I may as well go see a Friday night football game where there's a Mississippi State Bulldog playing, and that's what I'm going to do. Again, it's our job, but it's also our passion. We want to be there. We understand that State's probably going to get killed in that ball game. But we don't get to just sit back and say, you know what, I'm not going to go to the game this week. What do you mean you're not going to the game? Well, we're not going to win, so I'm not going to go. Fans obviously have the right to do that. I don't think, in members of the media, we do. I don't think you can be fair-weathered in the media. It's just my opinion. And that's one of the things that I have impressed upon our staff over the years is that win or lose, we have a job to do. We have an obligation to you. We have a responsibility to you and an honor to this university to be able to go be the eyes and ears of this fan base. So we will be in Austin, Texas. And then we'll take an open date. You know what? Then we're going to be in Athens, Georgia. And we're not going for the beer crawl. That's not us. We're going because Mississippi State's going to be there. When the Bulldogs leave town, so do we. So we're going to be there because this university deserves it, our readers deserve it, our players deserve it, and our coaches deserve it. I can't begin to imagine the message it sends to them, well, we're not going to go because we expect you to lose. What does that say? I don't know what everybody else plans to do, what they plan to say, but we will be there. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. I love Bulldog Burger Company, and you do too. And if you don't, it's because you hadn't got to know them yet. Bulldog Burger Company is a fantastic place to go eat. It is a fantastic place to work. It is a fantastic place just to go have an adult beverage, maybe after work. Kind of enjoy kicking back with friends and family. It's nice to be able to go put your feet under somebody else's table that knows what they're doing. And that's what happens with the Eat With Us group, the parent company of Bulldog Burger Company. They know how to feed people. They've been serving this man for decades. Their restaurants are institutions to this fan base. So the next time that you have the opportunity, go to Bulldog Burger Company. Get the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Get a great restaurant quality hamburger. I had a salad the last time. Don't judge me for that. Sometimes I'm just trying to eat clean, right? Your kids always want to go. You mentioned, hey, we're going to Bulldog. I got a friend of mine one time, I gave him a gift card to Bulldog Burger Company as a gift for Christmas, and they were like, you know what, this is my kid's favorite place to go. Yeah, I understand it. I'm not a kid anymore, but it's one of my favorite places to go to. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. As I've said many times, the portions are outstanding. One of the things that I love most about Bulldog Burger Company is it is run by people that have some integrity. Listen, everybody's got to do what's best for their business. But you know what? When I go in Bulldog Burger Company, I don't look at my receipt and I've got a convenience charge. I don't have the typical overcharge. And it's so funny, like, you'll ask your server, what's this? Well, we didn't want to raise our prices, so we started charging a convenience charge. What's 6 one way, half a dozen the other? I'm still paying extra for the same meal that I had pre-COVID. Yeah, but you're not going to get that at Bulldog Burger Company. You get integrity in pricing. You get more than you pay for there. So next time you're in town or passing through, swing through Bulldog Burger Company, a place that does business the right way, and they absolutely know how to feed you and your family. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, let's go back to this game. Interestingly enough, State didn't win the toss. Florida defers, but for 4 consecutive games, Mississippi State has received the opening kickoff. Makes me wonder, Jeff Lebby, when we've won the toss, is elected to go on offense. A lot of offensive-minded coaches is what they want to do. We want to get the ball, set the tone, get a lead, Now, we haven't really been able to do that, but I understand the thinking behind that. So we get here in the first quarter, and the first kick, and I give this Trace Mack kid. We talked about this in our preview. That Trace Mack was a guy more times than not that's going to put it in the end zone. He did. And, man, when he was kicking with that wind, he put it all the way out of the end zone multiple times. They kicked off a lot more than we wanted them to. But it's a 3-and-out for the Bulldogs on the first drive. Shapen, I would like to know, and I'm not going to, burden Jeff Lebby in tomorrow's press conference because, we'll talk about tape review. Then we're going to talk about Texas. We'll talk about Blake Shapen. One of the things that I've often said is if you want to talk about Saturday's game with the coach, it's probably best that you go to Saturday's game, right? Because then you can talk to them off the field. But when we get into Monday, you kind of, hey, what'd you look at on the tape? What kind of stood out to you? And it's a lot of the same answers, right? I mean, you have to ask that question. But at the same time, too, you don't learn a lot with the answer. But it's an obligation. You got to ask that. But one of the things that I noticed, and I'd love to know this, we started out kind of throwing a lot of bubbles and a lot of swing pat. I don't know what we saw. Maybe we thought that the Florida corners, didn't tackle well in space. Maybe we're just, hey, let's go out here and see what they're doing. A lot of times offensive coordinators go out there and script some plays to kind of find out how a defense plans to defend certain concepts. But I thought this was a little bit different. Last couple ball games we've come out and tried to establish the run, but we came out here and threw 3 consecutive passes to open our first drive. We're complete to Kevin Coleman, and it ends up being a 3-yard loss. Those guys get off blocks, they make a tackle. So right out of the gate, the first snap, we're behind the chains, and that has plagued Mississippi State throughout the year. 2nd and 13, we're complete to Kevin Coleman. No gain. Now it's 3rd and 13. And we get basically throw a little bit of an out route to Seydu, and we get 3 yards. And so the net change here is nothing. We lose 3 on the first one, no gain on the second one, and then we get 3 yards back. So the net change there is nothing. Nick Barmera with a 47-yard punt. It's fair caught at 28, so pretty good start to Nick. Nick was one of our most consistent performers on Saturday. Bulldog defense gets a 3-and-out here on the first drive, and it was good. I mean, it's like I turned to Mike Nemeth on his third down play. I said, this sounds kind of silly so early, but this is a big play in the ball game. I mean, to get the crowd engaged and maybe get the defense a little confidence, but sure enough, you get a 3-and-out here. Montrell Johnson off the left side for 2. Then it's complete to Chimere Dike for 5. Makes it 3rd and 3. And Bulldogs get downhill here. Brylan and near. Great play here. You've got Mertz having to kind of retreat a little bit because State got some pressure in his face, and he has to check it down. And the pass itself didn't have a lot of velo on it. And so by the time Tony Livingston caught it, Brylan Lanier was there and hit him up pretty good for no gain. It's a 41-yard punt, and give the deep snapper some credit for getting down there. Coleman's trying to make a play, and Rocco Underwood with the tackle there. And sometimes it seems like when Kevin Coleman gets a chance to do a punt return, it may be our best chance to score. And that's not being negative, but he is an electric returner. So here we traded 3-and-outs. We're like, okay, now we're kind of back on sequence. All right, we get the ball now at our 24. We take a little bit of a shot down the right side to Stonka. It's not there. Incomplete. 2nd and 10. We get it out to Creed Whittemore, and Creed makes a man miss and then sprints into open grass here. Gets 12 yards. First down of the ball game for either team. Bulldog fans responded too. Again, the ones that were there, it wasn't a capacity crowd or even close, but the ones that were there were very engaged. You'd expect that, right? People are going to get up and brave that heat and be out there at 11 a.m. to watch the Bulldogs play a game after being 1-2. It's kind of the truest of the true Maroons. So they were engaged. And so on 1st and 10 here, Shapen, some design runs for him, more this game than there have been, runs off the right side for 3. On 2nd and 7, we give it to Kevon Lee, who gets 3. Brings up a 3rd and medium here, 3rd and 4. And we try to get out to Justin Ball, and it falls incomplete. Somebody was on the wrong read there because the ball was thrown behind him. Either it was probably an option route where he saw it was an in, probably should have been an out. So we're not on the same page there. Ends up being incomplete. And then Nick Barmera with a 42-yard punt, fair caught at the 16. So in the exchange of punts there, State picks up 12 yards. It's like, hey, this may be a battle of field position. So then that change there is a positive. for State. And the problem is that despite what the special teams did, the defense kind of let us down here. All right, Florida takes over 1st and 10 at their 16-yard line. They get it out to Montrell Johnson for a couple yards. Isaac Smith on the tackle there. And those of you that are waiting for an Isaac Smith update, his mom posted on Facebook earlier today that he's doing fine. He's just a little bit stiff, a little bit sore, but he's expected to be fine. A couple more tests to kind of give him the go-ahead. Probably concussion protocol type thing, and that was a pretty big lick there. But yeah, it does appear that he's going to be just fine. All right, 2nd and 8, incomplete to Elijah Badger, who's a really good player. Makes it 3rd and 8. Chance for us to get off the field here. And they get it to Montrell Johnson. We have initial contact short of the line to gain. He gets through there, and we basically have a collision about a yard before the stick, and he falls forward and gets the first down here. It was 3rd and 8. He got 8. And if we, again, initial contact, and that's, tackling's got to get better. But these are SEC players too. Sometimes they're going to break a tackle, and that's what happened here. All right, 1st and 10. Mertz gets it out to Mizell, and you can see, Florida's kind of doing, I don't know if it's they don't have confidence in Mertz or confidence in the offensive line. They never really challenged us vertically in this first half or so. They took some shots a little bit later, but you could tell, they were just kind of working the underneath game and throwing it out in space and making us tackle. So, again, 4 yards there. Stone Blanton with a pretty good tackle there. 2nd and 6. They give it to Webb, who goes off the left side for 7. Blanton again on the tackle. 1st and 10 now from their 37. And again, a short pass. And he makes a man miss. Kelly Jones makes the tackle here. And it's a gain of 9 yards. And on 2nd and 1, it seems like we've kind of got him hemmed up here. And then Mertz gets flushed and runs right at the middle for 16 yards. 1st and 10 now at the State 38. I didn't like the call. I know you guys didn't like it either. The pass is incomplete. Isaac Smith has basically already launched himself, and he's got his hand up trying to hit the ball. And they never kind of specified. The only thing that I can imagine here is like a blow to the head. Like any contact with the quarterback's head, even if it's incidental, is going to get flagged. I don't like the call. I'm biased. I'm not a casual observer of this. But, it's a little ticky-tack thing. All of a sudden, instead of it being 3rd and 1, and that's been, hadn't always been the best for us, but 3rd and 1, a lot better than 1st and 10. It pushes them across midfield, makes it 1st and 10 at our 38-yard line. Excuse me, our 23. They were already at 38. They run off left side down for 3. 2nd and 7, Johnson up the middle for 4. Brings up 3rd and 3. Again, a chance for us to maybe force a field goal here. They drop back the pass. We lose containment. And Mertz runs off the right side for 7. First and goal. They give it to Johnson up the middle for 3. Back to him for 3 more. On 3rd and 3, they get the pass to Arliss Sportingham. This was a very well-designed play, too. We just kind of lost the guy in the mix. You roll a little bit to the left. You got a guy out there just basically undefended, and he's into the end zone. The extra point is good. Kickoff returned. Davin Booth gets this thing 38 yards. He actually got a little bit farther, but they ruled him out on the far sideline. But that was good to see. We haven't really had that explosive kick return. That was a really good one. And you start thinking, okay, hey, we're in this thing, right? They had to put together a long drive. We had an opportunity to get off the field. We didn't. But we did get a 3-down that first drive. We think, okay, maybe we can get some stops in this thing. But we got to get some points on the board. And these are the first points the State gets on a first touchdown State's had in the first half since the Eastern Kentucky game. All right, 1st and 10 from our 38. We give it to Kevon Lee, who had a really good ball game, up the middle for 6. On 2nd and 4, we go back to Lee, who gets 1. On 3rd and 3, we go back to him again, 10 yards. And this is a Florida defense that hadn't been great against the run, so it's good to see us be able to kind of find some success. We felt like that was a tender spot in the underbelly. And we exploit it. We bring Kevin Coleman now, a bit of a jet sweep action here for 9 yards. That makes it 2nd and 1. Get it out to Seydoux. And he hurdles a man again. We get 25 yards down to the Florida 11. There's a flag down. They had 12 on the field and still couldn't stop us. Brings up 1st and 10 if they're 11. Booth just off right guard there for 3. 2nd and 7. We go back to Booth for 3. Makes it 3rd and 4. You're thinking, man, Steve, we can't kick a field goal here. Where Devin Booth says, okay, I'll get it. Now, his initial surge was stopped. And give him some credit for some pretty solid long leg drive here. That all comes from the squat rack. And they push and push and push. We get a little bit of a nudge there from an offensive lineman, and we get the first down. Crowd was really, really excited about the effort on this play. Now it's 1st and goal at the 1. We go back to Booth, who's into the end zone. And so after we get to the 11, it's 4 consecutive rushes for Booth. Says a little bit about his own conditioning, too. Extra point is good. It's now a 7-7 ball game. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, okay, all right, let's see if we can't make a game of it. All right, the kick is a touchback. Really good job by Nick Barmera. Again, one of our most consistent performers on the day. 1st and 10 from their 25, and it's incomplete. However, DeMonte Russell had lined up offside, so it makes it 1st and 5. DJ Lagway in at quarterback finds Marcus Burt for 10 yards, moves the chains, and that runs out your first quarter. But we get to the first quarter. It is a 7-7 game, and you feel like, hey, maybe State's here to play today. Hey, fans, if you know me, you know I'm a dog person. I love them. I've got 5 of them. You've heard them on the show before. How about that? And so when things come up involving dogs, I'm always very acutely aware of it. And, you know, our friend, actress Katherine Heigl, kind of discovered there's a lot of dogs out there suffering with some health issues. And she said over 16,000 dogs through her foundation. Says she's seen more and more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. After doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health. It's their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her own dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients in the world, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also supports the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. How great is that? So what's interesting is they sent me some sample products. Guys, I use it basically as a supplement, just to kind of see how they'd like it. They would leave their regular food for the Superfood Complete. It's crazy. They absolutely love it. So go to badlandsranch.com/boneyard, and you can order right now and get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. They're putting their money where their mouth is. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlands.ranch.com/boneyard. You'll be glad you did. All right, now to our second quarter action. The Florida drive resumes here, 1st and 10 at the 40. And your Bulldog defense gets another stop. So 2 of the first 3 drives, it's the Bulldogs getting the ball back without yielding points here. Montrell Johnson up the middle for 12, and he fumbles. Isaac Smith forces the fumble, and Kelly Jones jumps on top of it right at midfield. And now you're thinking, hey, if we go get a lead here, the crowd that's here, it's a very partisan crowd. I mean, Florida had a few people there. I'm not going to lie. Not as much as you'd expect some years, but especially on their side of the field, there was a lot of blue and orange kind of out there. This, I thought, was a very significant drive for us because this could have been a tone-setting drive and also to really kind of giving the Mississippi State offense some credit, and then you reward your defense. Again, that's 2 stops in the first 3 drives, and you start thinking, hey, if we can just get enough, maybe we can pull this thing off. 1st and 10, Shapen runs off the left side for 4. However, it comes back, McCallum Pounder's flagged for holding. And again, I understand that sometimes Mississippi State's going to shoot themselves in the foot. I don't know why we keep reloading the gun. Now it's 1st and 20. Again, and how many times have we seen it? We get into a 1st and 15, 1st and 20 type situation and get behind the chains and we can't make it up. 1st and 20, we're incomplete to Seydoux. And again, I don't know what we're thinking here. Maybe the shot down the field wasn't there, but we throw it underneath. Ends up getting broken up. 2nd and 20 now. We give it to Johnny Daniels. He runs off the right side for 3. 3rd and 17. We take a shot to Kevin Coleman. I thought there was a little contact. The officials didn't deem it interference. They called it a PBU. Sharif Denson on the play there. And so now we got a punt. So here we go from a situation where it's 1st and 10 at the 48. and we end up having to punt from our 41. So a net loss of 7 on a drive that could have really changed the complexion of this ball game. Florida takes over at their 35, and it wasn't a great punt by Nick. Probably the one blemish on the day. Just goes 24 yards. Shanked it a little bit off the right side of his foot. All right, Jacoby Jackson runs to the middle for 3. 2nd and 7 now, and it's a complete pass to Jackson that gets 12 yards and out to midfield. Zachary Tillman on the tackle. Now we're there at midfield just that quickly, It's complete to Elijah Badger for 6, makes it a 2nd and 4. They go back to Badger again. He gets 12 yards this time and a first down. 1st and 10 now at the state 32. They get it to Jackson, and this is the big play here, right? So they break it, and then it comes back because of the crackback block. The block in the back here. That's right. This was not the crackback. This is the block in the back. My mistake. But they break it for a big play, and it comes back. And because it's a spot foul, it's 1st and 5 now instead of being 1st and 25. Mertz then complete to Mizell for 7. That moves the chains. 1st and 10 now at the 20. And, take a little bit of it. It's not a distant shot. It's 20 yards in the air. But, Marcus Burke makes the catch there. Extra point's good. Now it's 14-7 Florida. And now you got to get back an answer, right? You missed the opportunity to be the team that's up a score. Now you're down a score. Still plenty of time in the half. And what do? We go 3 and out here. 1st and 10 from our 19. We're off the right side for 2. We go back to the right side with Davin Booth for 3. Makes it 3rd and 5. And we make a play here to Mario Craver. A little bit late getting the ball out. And PBU by Jason Marshall. So it's a 3 and out. So again, negative yardage on the quick change after the turnover. And then after the score, we go 3 and out. That is losing football. That is losing football. Good teams answer. Good teams take advantage of turnovers at midfield. We're not a good team right now. I mean, it's just the reality of it. I'm not being negative. I'm just kind of telling you how it is. You don't need me to tell you that. You see it yourself. 1st and 10 from our 44. It's complete to Livingston for 9. And on 2nd and 1, it's a pass basically across the middle there to Hayden Hansen for the touchdown. Now it's 21-7, and it feels like this game's about to get away from us. It's a good thing the Bulldogs didn't feel that way. Truly. Even though it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, I think we started to kind of find some things on offense. And that's kind of been the case, right? It's like when the edge comes off a little bit. When the edge comes off a little bit, all of a sudden everybody just kind of relaxes and plays football. But we put a good drive here together. Didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we started to kind of maintain a little possession here. And Shapen off the left side for 4. Again, a lot more quarterback runs here. That proved to be a big thing later in the game. Johnny Daniels has emerged here in the last couple of weeks as a guy that we can count on a little bit too. And it's nice to see the running game kind of get going, but I think he kind of sparked that last week. He's rewarded with a little more carries in the first half this week. Johnny at the middle for 3. And then we're complete to Kevin Coleman for 10. That moves chains. Now it's 1st and 10 out at our 42. And again, here we go. It's a self-imposed infraction, right? Adding to our own misery. It's a false start. We never got set. We never got set there first. And that's on Blake too, right? You got to let everybody get set. 1st and 15. Kevon at the middle for 9. 2nd and 6 off the right side for 9. Now makes it 1st and 10. Blake runs off the right side for 1. Kevon then breaks loose. Really, really physical run here. Powers through a couple of arm tackles. Makes it 18. 1st and 10. Kevon gets bottled up here. We miss a block, and it just felt like they knew that it was coming. We lose 4. So, again, we're right back behind the chain. 2nd and 14. We get it to Kevin Coleman for just 1 yard, and guess what? We get called for holding. Again, self-imposed penalties. I mean, it's just like this is a self-inflicted wound. 2nd and 23. Johnny runs off the right side for 2. 3rd and 21. Take a little bit of a shot down the field towards Zachary, and the ball's right there. Give them some credit for breaking it up. But it's 4th and 21, and then we take a delay of the game just to give the punter a little more room to operate. 4th and 26, Nick makes the punt. It's fair, caught at the 9. And the defense kind of let us down here too. Again, offense is misfiring a little bit, and now all of a sudden the defense kind of feeds off that. It's a team game. But that aspect of it is not a talent issue. Listen, I know that we are talent deficient in many respects on defense. I get it. And we have some guys that can play. We don't have enough of them. But offensively, many of our struggles offensively are of our own making. And that's depressing and encouraging at the same time. It's like, why do we continue to do this? But you know what? Because it is in our control, maybe we can get that aspect of it fixed. We got to play cleaner. Again, it's a chance right here to kind of get back into this ball game, and instead we allow them to get a little more separation because Florida comes right back down the field and scores. And now instead of it being a 21-14 game, it's a 28-7 game. And they did it, largely on the ground. Johnson off the left side for one. They get a short pass out to Marcus Berg. And that ends up going for nothing. You think we're going to have them hemmed up here. And it's 3rd and 9, and what do you know? Lagway gets loose and runs for 13. So now all of a sudden they're not in the shadow of their own goalposts. And they take it 91 yards. That's the frustrating part. But again, so much of it on the ground. That's not a hot take. You knew that was coming. I mean, you and I both know this. If you compared up athlete to athlete, their offense against our defense, they're going to win that. And they do right here. They go back to Montreal for 11. Now it's 1st and 10 out to the 34. A little short pass. Gets 12 more. I mean, they're starting to get things. It's really picking up here. They're running a little bit of tempo, but it's just like they're finding some rhythm. Like they've kind of figured out how we're going to defend things, and now they know how to attack us. Johnson off the right for 3 makes it 2nd and 7 out in their midfield, and Webb goes for 11. Now it's 1st and 10, and they take a shot to Elijah Badger. And there were a couple times they got behind the defense. Other times they didn't. We had it covered up. But Bryce Pollock gets beat on the play for 27 yards. Now it's 1st and 10. They give it back to Webb for 3. We call timeout, just trying to manage this thing and give us an opportunity. Maybe we can hold for a field goal and go down and get a score since we got to get the ball back to them. After the timeout, Jackson's off the right side for a touchdown. It's 28-7 now. And again, for the 3rd consecutive games, State gets down 3 to 4 scores in the middle of a ball game. That is not a recipe for success. It can't happen. If you look up, it's 28-27. You're like, man, it's going to be an exciting second half. You look up at 28-7, you tell yourself, yeah, this is what it is. This is who we are right now. We take over at 117 at our 25. We get it out to Craver for 16. And then we go back to Craver for 37 more. And what a nice addition this freshman has been. That's the thing, too. A lot of people weren't even really, so excited. We're so focused on JJ and Stanko, you didn't realize that now he's the one that's playing the most. But now it's 1st and 10 at their 22. And Booth then runs up the middle for 17. Gets a first down. It's 1st and 5 under a minute to go. 1st and goal from the 5. Shapen goes off the right side for 2. Then we're incomplete to Craver. They break it up there. I thought the contact was early. 3rd and 3, Shapen runs it in for the touchdown, dives in. And we kick the extra point. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well maybe this thing getting too far out of reach. And you knew that first drive in the second half was going to be big. Because all of a sudden they take it out to a 3-score game. You can go ahead and head to the junction. But at 28-14, you start thinking, man, it's so nuts to go back and think about. We had these 2 drives that we put ourselves behind the chains. It's not like they out-athleted us. We did this to ourselves. Give them credit. It's one thing offensively, that they're better than our defense. But I really think our offense is better than their defense, and many of their stops came because Mississippi State was complicit in their own demise. All right, we get to the 3rd quarter here. And again, we needed some good things to happen. And we do. We get some good things here. We talked about, in order for us to kind of climb back into this, we're going to have to get a stop in this first drive. Guys, we get 3 and out. Pretty crazy how we got it. But Jackson runs off left for 5, and then they get it out to Webb for 2. Makes it 3rd and 3. The pass is short. and his knee is down. And if you watch the linesman, I don't know if you could see it on television, but he initially pointed down. Now, he didn't stop the play, which is what they're trained to do, right? Let it go, and then we'll get it in review. The review was very, very short because he was clearly down. And they did show the replay in Davis Wade Stadium. And our students, who were great, again, responded, let everybody know he was down. We all knew it. People were booing, and they should have. It's terrible. But, yeah, he was down. So the officials saw it and maybe just didn't trust it. Because they blow the whistle, the inadvertent whistle, they're trying to eliminate that. So just let the play go. But how many times have you seen something stupid go to review and they just say, oh, well, the play stands. We can't tell one way or another. But nevertheless, it comes back and ends up being a punt situation. So the Bulldog defense comes through here and they get you 3 and out. And now you think, okay, if we can go out here and score some points, man, we can really make a game of this thing. That's exactly what happens. Shapen, again, runs up the middle for 8, the most running we've seen him do. 2nd and 2, Johnny Daniels then, 15 yards. And again, we talk about the much maligned offensive line, and I even saw some complaints about that yesterday. Offensive line actually played pretty well in this ball game. 1st and 10, Shapen runs off the left side for 7. 2nd and 3, Daniels gets a first down but fumbles. We get it back. Johnny Daniels himself gets it back. First down, 1st and 10, now at the Florida 42. Booth comes in off the left side, and they stack him up for a loss of 6. So, again, we're behind the chains again. I just praise the offensive line. Here's where we had a failure. And, again, it's off that left side. Love McCallum Pounders to death, but, not been very consistent. 2nd and 16, Shapen up the middle for 6, makes it a 3rd and 10, and then Booth runs up the middle for 15. Great job by the offensive line here. 1st and 10 then. We get complete to Coleman. 2-yard loss. We miss a block there. I believe it was Sadu that misses a block. And again, we're behind the chains. 2nd and 12. It is a fumble by Blake Shapen, and he recovers it. We get sack fumble, and Blake gets back on it. It's a loss of 4. 3rd and 16. We get it out to Coleman, who gets 13, makes it 4th and 3. We go for it, and it's Booth again. We talk about the leg drive. He does it again here. We move the chains, makes it 1st and 10 at their 17. Shapen then runs for 4. 2nd and 6, we're complete to Jordan Mosley for the touchdown. And what a great effort by J-Mo here. He knew the ball was coming to him. He elevates, gets his feet down, makes an incredible catch. Extra point's good. It's 28-21. You're thinking, if we can just get a stop, maybe. Because that drive, even though we scored, was very herky-jerky. Again, we get behind the chains because of our own ineptitude in some respects. And this offense is too talented to continue to do that. And there's so many times it just feels like a struggle. It really does. And you're going to have that with new guys. All right, Florida takes over at their 25 with 6:38 remaining in a quarter. It's incomplete. Bryce Pollock with a stop or the pass break up there. 2nd and 10. Johnson off the left side for 10. Leans forward here. It felt like we should have been able to get him down short of the line of the game, but it would have made it 3rd and short. But 1st and 10 here. They throw across the middle, and this is when we have the personal foul, right? So it's basically a crossing route. Baby, kind of a shallow cross there, really. He picks up some blockers and then gets that crackback block and goes 65 yards for the touchdown. They call it back on the crackback, and now all of a sudden it's 1st and 10 back at their 35. It's incomplete. Kelly gets a hand in there. There was contact. The ball was a little bit underthrown and off target, and so they flag him for PI. I didn't like the call, but if the shoe was on the other foot, we would have wanted to see a flag there. All right, 1st and 10, Tyler Woodard comes in place of Isaac Smith and tries to time up a blitz and mistimes it and jumps off sides. Makes it 1st and 5. Nice pass here to Chimry Dike for 28, down to the state 18. 1st and 10 now, Johnson in the middle for 5. 2nd and 5 to go off left guard, I guess it was, for 4. Brings up 3rd and 1, a chance for us to force a field goal, and we give up a gain of 7. Makes it 1st and goal, and then Graham Mertz sneaks it in for the score. So now they're back up 2 touchdowns, and it just felt like, again, we just can't get enough stops to make this thing really competitive. All right, State comes back out here, and again, trying to just, hey, let's just continue to kind of get things going. And again, I think in the second half we found some things offensively, even though we had some issues. 1st and 10 from our 25. It's complete to Seydu for 15. 1st and 10 now out at the 40. We're incomplete to Mosley. On 2nd and 10, Daniels runs at the middle for 2, makes it 3rd and 8. And then Daniels off the left side gets loose. Very determined run. Kind of spins through and breaks through a couple tackles here. 18 yards on the play, makes it 1st and 10 at their 40, and it really felt like we're going to score. And again, the question's like, defensively, can we get enough stops to give the offense a chance? Booth off the right side for 13. Then we're incomplete to Coleman, but it's PI. Now makes it 1st and 10 at their 15. Shapen off the left side for 4, and that's a very significant play. Very, very slow to get up afterwards. Offensive line helps him up. That ultimately is a play that cost Blake Shapen the rest of the year. 2nd and 6, we hand off to Booth for 3. And on 3rd and 3, we go back to Booth and gets nothing. 4th and 3, we go for it. We have to. And Blake Shapen, he and his broken shoulder, makes a throw to Kevin Coleman. And a very obvious PI right in front of the back judge there. Makes it 1st and goal at the 3. Daniels at the middle for 2, and then Daniels back up the middle for 9, makes it 2nd and 1. That runs out the quarter. So we go to the 4th with the Bulldogs with a chance to, again, make it a 1-score game heading into the 4th quarter, and that has to kind of carry over. We go back to Booth here, and he gets nothing. Now, Jeff Lebby said in hindsight, that we wanted Blake to keep it here, but in Blake's situation, probably not the best thing. And on 4th and 1, we obviously have to go. We go, and we run a speed option left. I didn't like the play call. I'm just going to be honest about that. I did not like the play call. I don't like the speed option thing, and I understand you want to give them something else to think about. But you got a right-handed quarterback running left, running a speed option. I think even if the pitch is on time and on target, I don't know that Booth makes it in. It goes down in the books as a fumble, and at this point, the game, for all intents and purposes, is over. Now, we didn't get a stop on the next drive either. That's the thing. It's all of a sudden you look up and think, hey, we're kind of back in the mix here. But, we weren't. I guess it was 35-21. So forgive me here, 35-21. And if we'd scored the touchdown, it makes it a 1-score game early in the 4th. In Florida, it's closing time, and Florida puts a winning drive together. Jaden Baugh rushes for 3. Lagway's in the game now. Complete to Marcus Berg for 15. 2nd and 10 now. 1st and 10 now to 25. Baugh off the left side for 8. Complete to Abrams for 3. Makes it 1st and 10. Also moves the chains. That's typically what happens, Steve, on 1st down. They move the chains. Complete to Tony Livingston now for 9. 2nd and 1. And this is the play that everybody's talking about. This is the play, and somebody on Twitter put this thing out, and it shows like the end zone view where we're pinching, and then we have both backers kind of creeping up in the middle, and they've got us out leveraged to the right side. And the closest person to fitting a gap is our safety, who's about 17, 18 yards off the line of scrimmage. Well, they toss it to him, and then he makes Tyler Woodard miss and goes 32 yards. Now it's 1st and 10 at our 23. And that guys, that's not talent, that's coaching right there. You got to be able to make that adjustment. And that's the thing, too. Like, you want to know why fans are so up in arms? It's because you can take anybody, even the most casual fan, and you show them that play, and it's like, wait a minute, why don't we have anybody over there fitting the gap? Why do we have both interior defensive linemen pinching, and then we're sneaking those guys up there? Do we not see how they're aligned? I mean, we got guys in the booth, right? Somebody couldn't see that and say, hey, watch the toss right here. They're setting that up. They're overloaded to the right side. And it's like, hey, we're going to call what we're going to call rather than adjust to the alignment. And that makes no sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to any of you either. Those are the things in this day of the internet and social media and streaming services that people are going to find those little mistakes. And that's a huge mistake. And they're going to share that. And people are going to see it and say, I was at the game, I didn't notice that. Now we're enraged. And I even put in my notes when we saw it, I mean, it was as wide open as a bulldozer. I mean, you could have drove a dump truck through there. And those are, again, we talk about being co-conspirators in our own demise. This ball game is over. But you can't go out there and coach that way. That's a mistake. It's a huge mistake. I mean, the players are going to run the plays that are called. It's like, okay, here's what we want to run. But nobody saw that. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't. And that's not me being negative. That's just me being honest. There's no way to defend that. And how many other times have we not seen an end zone view? And I suspect that's probably the case. We go back and say, you know what happened here? Sometimes you get beat. And sometimes you have guys that block plays up pretty well. You may be in the perfect defense. And they may just pick it up. That's football. This is not that case. This is where they got the look they wanted, and we didn't counter, and we paid for it. All right, again, 1st and 10, they go for 10 off the left side. Makes it 1st and 10 from our 13. Webb for 8. 2nd and 2, we hit Webb for a loss, and I'm glad that we hadn't quit here. That's Tanner Johnson, a walk-on, and Ashawn Shepard on tackle. 3rd and 3, a chance for us to maybe force a field goal. But instead, it's, they rush up the middle here, and Lagway fumbles. Corey Ellington forces it. Corey Ellington hadn't played much this year due to injury. And Austin Barber recovers it for the touchdown. It came loose, and you get thinking, hey, if we get it there, it's still a 2-score game. We got the football. Nevertheless, extra points good, 42-21. And again, the game is over. It's just a matter of what the final score is going to be. Michael Van Buren comes in. A lot of people curious, Steve, why didn't Parson come in? Well, that's coach's decision, okay? I don't know. And he talked about it a little bit. But I'm not going to go in there and say, Coach, why not Chris Parson, right? And trust me, there's some people out there that have kind of advocated for Chris. I love Chris. I do. I think Chris is extremely talented. He was a leader in our class. He's also a Mike Leach guy, And so I think, returning guys have a lot more to prove, especially when a guy's trying to get his offense together. And Michael's a guy that they had a relationship with, a guy that they've kind of recruited all along. And for one reason or another, they chose to go with Van Buren. And I suspect that Michael will start this week at Texas. That's a tough start. Going to be over 105,000, 102,000 out there. It's tough. But he comes in, and we're incomplete here. And I like the fact it's kind of a controlled passing thing here. Let's just kind of get him some reps. We go to Booth, who gets 9, makes it a very manageable 3rd and 1. We go back to Booth for 5. Still determined running by this running back room. 1st and 10, incomplete to Mario Craver. And he's got a guy in his face who couldn't really step into it. We put a lot of air into that one. 2nd and 10, Daniels up the middle for 9. 3rd and 1 now. Daniels up the middle for 4 to move the chains. 1st and 10 now at their 48. We get it out to Akari for 17 yards. I like it when Kelly's involved. He's explosive. 1st and 10 at their 31. And Van Buren is sacked for a 1-yard loss. I think initially they ruled that no gain, that he got back to the line of scrimmage. And I noticed today when I got up in the box score that they were charged with 2 sacks. I think there was just 1. I don't know if that's just a discrepancy between our record keeping and theirs, and we just said, okay, whatever. But now it's 2nd and 11, and they get flagged for defensive holding, 10 yards. 1st and 10 now at their 22. Van Buren at the middle for nothing. 2nd and 10. Daniels off the right side for 1. 3rd and 9. And again, these plays right here are what define young quarterbacks. We find Akari at their 10 for 11, and it's a 1st down. It's a great throw. It's a great catch. They tried to gang tackle him and pull it out of there. It just goes to show you that the strength and conditioning program at Mississippi State, at least for wide receivers, is pretty good. And on 1st and 10, we give it to Daniels. He runs off the left side for 10, has to break through a tackle inside the 5 and does, and scores. Extra point's good. It's now 42-28. And again, you go back and think, man, what would that fumble have meant? We'd be able to get on that fumble. So many things you look back here, and you look at this score and you say, you know what, the game wasn't competitive. It was competitive. And there was so much of this that the Florida defense wasn't really stopping us. Mississippi State was stopping us. The Florida offense, a different scenario. They were kind of dictating terms to us, to our defense. But offensively, there were opportunities there to be made. We try the onside kick. We get the big bounce, and we can't get on it. And then they're basically just kind of running clock here. Johnson in the middle for 5, back to him for 9. He didn't get anything on 1st and 10. We call timeout here. Again, we're just trying. We're not giving up. Because what if you can get a quick score and get an onside kick? I mean, you got to fight to the end, and I was glad that we did. Johnson then runs off right side for a 3-yard loss. Corey Clark, late signee for Mississippi State on the tackle there. 3rd and 13. It's complete to DK for 10. Makes it 4th and 3. And the field goal is good from 47 yards. Makes it a 45-28 game, so 17 points, a 3-score game. Chances of coming back with 2:34 left, not good. Van Buren back out for another drive here. Incomplete with the man in his face on 1st and 10. Then on 2nd and 10, he gets it to Seydoux for 5, makes it 3rd and 5. It's manageable, and then we get it to Mosley, who moves the sticks. 1st and 10 now at our 36. Then we find Craver for 9, makes it 2nd and 1. We decide to take a shot here, and this is a ball, again, too much air under this thing. It looked almost like a punt, to be honest with you. So Akari, the ball's on target, but the DB gets over there. They don't credit him with a PBU, and Akari nearly comes down with this thing. All right, 3rd and 1, and I love the 2nd 1 shot. I do, especially when you're running the ball as well as we were. 3rd and 1, Daniels gets a 1st down by getting a 4-yard gain. Now we're out near midfield. Van Buren gets flushed, evades pressure, and then runs for 5 yards off the left side. You'll take that every day. 2nd and 5, we try to go back to Akari. Justice Boone in his face there, kind of forced an early throw. Makes it 3rd and 5, and then Van Buren is sacked. Again, trying to evade the pressure, kind of a shoestring tackle. He goes down. To me, that's the only legitimate sack of the ball game. 4th and 15. You think it's over. It's not. Great throw and catch here as Van Buren finds Creed Whittemore. 24 yards down to the Florida 32. 1st and 10 now. We try to get to Daniels. It's broken up. 2nd and 10. Complete to Akari for 28 yards at the Florida 20. You think we're going to score here? Yeah. Excuse me. That was from the 32. Now he caught it at the 20 and then gets a little catch and run there down to the Florida 4. So it's 1st and goal at the 4. Got a chance to put some more points on the board. And it's not even about the game now. It's about Michael Van Buren's development. We target Jaden Wally there, and it's a PBU, but they flag him for PI. Again, now it's 1st and goal at the 2, and Van Buren runs at the middle for 1, and they stack him up, and the clock runs out. I don't like the play call there. I understand the game is over, but you're still going to play football. And again, I'm proud that we fought, but there are no moral victories at Mississippi State, nor in the Southeastern Conference. Let's look at some individual numbers here. Blake Shapen, 13 of 21 with the 1 touchdown, also sacked once. Michael Van Buren, 7 of 13. So a little bit better completion percentage. And he only played the 2 drives and threw for 100 yards. Now, granted, we're throwing a lot more, but the mix was pretty good play call-wise. We mixed in some runs, too. It's not like we're running the air raid and throwing it every down. And the long of 28 to Creed Whittemore. And he sacked twice officially, but again, I go down as 1. We talked about this running game. We ran for 240 yards in the game. Johnny Daniels with 77, Davin Booth with 75, and Kevon Lee 52. Kevon banged up a little bit, and so Daniels got a little more extensive action there in the second half. Daniels, your leading rusher. Blake Shapen had 12 attempts for 32 yards, and of course one of those attempts ends his season. Kevin Coleman 1 for 9. Mario Craver, your leading receiver, 3 grabs for 62 yards. Akari, 3 for 56. Seydoux, 4 for 48. Creed, 2 of 36. I'd like to see Creed get more touches, as would you. Kevin Coleman, 6 for 19. We've got to get Kevin in space. Got to get Kevin in space where he can make people miss. Jordan Mosley, 2 of 19 and the 1 touchdown. Defensively, and it's pretty crazy too, Isaac Smith, misses the second half of the ball game and was still tied for the team lead in tackles with 8. Got an All-American, guys. Stone Blanton, 8 tackles for him as well. Kelly with 7. Brian Lanier with 7. Nick Mitchell with 6. Corey Ellington with 5. Bryce Pollock with 4. Ashawn Shepard with 4. Perhaps his best day in the uniform. But we played a lot of people. We did. We got to get more production. And we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. Simple as that. The headline, though, is that we're going to soldier on without Blake Shapen. And I think it's fair to say Michael Van Buren should be the quarterback. And that's, based on what we saw later in that ball game. And again, Parson may have done the same thing or better, right? But he got the reps, and it does appear, you're talking to Jordan Mosley and they're in postgame, that the team believes in him. Now, they would fight with Parson too, don't get me wrong. But I think it's one of those situations where Jeff Lebby's like, hey, this is my guy. He's the future. A lot of people have wondered, hey, what about Blake Shapen now? I am confident they will file for a medical hardship waiver. There was already some discussion about trying to get him another year once this year was over. And now that this injury has come up, the chances of him getting a hardship year are much better than they were on Friday. And so I think that's probably something you think about now from a recruiting standpoint. If Blake Shapen is back next year, do you go to the portal to get another quarterback? And what quarterbacks are going to be willing to come if they know that Blake Shapen is going to be back in a Bulldog uniform next year? So that's something you got to think about with the recruiting aspect of it. Do you go out and get a quality backup or a guy that comes in and maybe is a competitor? A lot of those guys would be like, hey, I'd rather go play at the FCS or the G5 level and have a chance to start. But there are other guys out there that's like, hey, I'd love a chance to go compete and play in the Southeastern Conference. That's something Jeff Lebby's going to have to figure out. But the ball game's over. Bulldogs now 1-3. All right, time for today's top 10 list, as always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Blair Chandler is my friend, your friend, our collective friend, our Bulldog friend in the mortgage industry. 23 years of experience, folks. You can entrust your mortgage needs to just about anybody, but why gamble with something that important? Somebody else may get you in a bad deal. Blair's going to get you the best deal possible. Rather than you having to pay a ton of points and things like that, kind of line somebody else's pocket, he's going to structure this loan that gives you the best chance to get approved by underwriting, which can be a real chore. So you need somebody with 23 years of experience at your service. And that's Blair Chandler. It's phone number 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Maybe you're looking for a home for the first time. Get that pre-qualification letter. You probably didn't know you could do that. Get pre-qualified, and you know what you're shopping for. You'll be within your means, right? You don't need to be out there looking at houses you can't afford to pay for, right? Blair can help you make a smart buying decision in that respect, too. Or maybe you're looking for a game day condo. Yeah, that's always something to consider. Could be your future retirement home. You start, kind of casually moving things up here periodically and say, you know what, we retire, we're just going to go to Starkville. Don't have any grass to cut. Wouldn't that be great? Blair Chandler can help that dream become a reality. Again, 601-500-2344. Okay. Been a lot of pain as of late, a lot of pain. And so I thought, let's do a top 10 songs about pain. Yeah, it's true. So I didn't do hurt, right, or everybody hurts. This is all pain, okay? And some of it's positive, some's negative, but it's a pretty cool list, pretty eclectic. There's some deeper cuts on here from some bands you know. There's not going to be anybody on this list you don't know, or you shouldn't know. We're going to start with number 10, the Ramones. Yeah, as I'm sitting here with a Sex Pistols shirt on, and we're talking about the Ramones. Yeah, take that, you Green Day listeners. Yeah, you and your soy latte, Starbucks drinking pop. Yeah, it's true. And don't sit here and tell me about how the Groupon helped fill an arena out in California. You like your own stuff, but don't call it punk. It's not punk. It's not. The Ramones were punk. They were East Coast. They were basically the house band at CBGB's for a while. And this is a track maybe you're not as familiar with, but it's very typical of the Ramones catalog. Number 9, the last track, the 9th track, off of Van Halen's incredible 1984 album. I think Rob is going to be happy I included this one. I actually dig this one. I think the instrumentation and the music composition exceeds the vocal. But it's a great way to kind of end that album. I think Eddie is amazing on this. It's Van Halen's House of Pain. In this House of Pain, I think Dave, the vocal's okay. I think Eddie is kind of the shining star, which he typically was. Number 8, it's Alice Cooper. And anytime we can work Alice on, Alice, a guy that's been in recovery a long time. It's a track called Pain. Just straightforward. Pain from Alice Cooper. I tell you, I watched an interview with Alice recently, and he's so genuine about his recovery. He's very transparent about that, and he goes, hey, I just got sick of this and sick of that, and I just had enough. And he said, that's one of the reasons I never relapsed, is because I had reached a point, I'm like, I am done with all of this. And he's very active in recovery. He's a big advocate for people in recovery and to encourage others, and has been very, very good speaking with other people in the music industry to kind of be their sponsors and things like that. He's a good guy to know. All right, number 7, off the Destroyer album. I know my buddy Richard's going to be pumped about this. Anytime we can work in some Kiss, it's a good thing too. And this is the Destroyer album. I have the shirt. We all have the vinyl from back in the 70s on Casablanca Records. And it's Sweet Pain from Kiss. A deeper cut, but it's one I think you'll have a little fun with. Number 6, this is after Tim Ripper Owens had left, Judas Priest and Rob Halford had come back, and it's like Rob hit a different level. It's like Rob was angry, had to make up for lost time. I think the guitar on this is ridiculously good too. I don't know that gets enough mention, to be honest with you. And it's Painkiller from Judas Priest. It's incredible. And it's like Rob Halford was a big singer in the 80s, but all of a sudden when he reunited, it's like he found a different gear. And you're like, okay, well, the boys are back. It was great. Number 5, a bit of a change of pace here. Kind of getting off the rock stuff. I'm a Depeche Mode and NXS fan. I love those bands too. It's not all Hairspray and moisturizer and things like that for me. But Depeche Mode, one of my favorite bands of all time. It's a great track that I love that didn't get a lot of love. But it's on the Greatest Hits album, if memory serves me correct. It's a Pain that I'm used to. That could kind of apply to Mississippi State fans over the years too, right? It's a clever title. It's a cool track too. And it's not really a dance song. Number 4, I love 3 Days Grace. I like them now. I love them with Adam Gauthier. And I like him with Saint Sonia. I think he was kind of the driving force. And 3 Days Grace still writing a bunch of hits, selling a bunch of records, and doing great. But the glory years to me were when Adam was the lead singer, and I'm going to go with Pain from 3 Days Grace. One of my favorite songs is The High Road from 3 Days Grace. Dig that one a lot. Number 3, we're going to go back again to the 70s. It's Carly Simon, right? Have we had Carly Simon on the top 10 list very often? No, we have not. And she still has clouds in her coffee. She sold like the name, like who she wrote the song You're So Vain About. She sold that at auction. And like the guy had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Like he paid thousands of dollars for her to say who that song is about. A lot of people think it's about Warren Beatty. But this guy paid, he just had to know, and he paid thousands of dollars, signed a non-disclosure agreement that he would never tell anybody, but now he knows. There is nothing out there that I need to know that I can't share with other people that I'm willing to pay for. I'm just saying that for what it is. Now, many of you fans of the 80s, you're probably wondering, hey, where's Sting and the Police fit in? Well, right here at number 2 is King of Pain. This was a huge hit for them. Huge. Huge, man. Probably not as big and creepy as Every Breath You Take. I'll be watching you. Every move you make. Kind of creepy. But King of Pain's a good track. I had a Police wallet. Those Velcro wallets we used to have? It was red and it was blue. Wasn't no mess, but it had like the Police on it. I'm sure they got no money from that wallet. Somebody gave me that gift. And, when you're a kid, I had a Knott's Berry Farm wallet and that kind of stuff. It's just like all of a sudden I'm a teenager, so I need something. And somebody picked it up and gave it to me as a gift. The Police, I wasn't a big fan. But that's my connection. Number 1, though, and probably a surprise to many, and that's okay, it's my list, and you can have your own list, that's fine. I absolutely love this track, and I like the late Bon Jovi catalog. This isn't as late, as the documentary. Richie was still with the band. It's a great track from Bon Jovi. Give Me Something for the Pain. I love this song. It's the writing is very clever. John Bon Jovi and Richie were great together. I wish they'd found a way to work it out and get back together. You saw recently John Bon Jovi and his assistant, or maybe his wife, prevented a young lady in Nashville from committing suicide. Have you seen this? Yeah, there's walking along a bridge, and there's a girl that's like over the bridge, standing on a ledge, preparing to jump, and John Bon Jovi calmly and quietly walks up and talks to her. They help her back over the bridge. It's great. And it wasn't like some contrived thing where somebody's got their phone out. It's like the surveillance camera picked it up. And you start thinking about that too. Like if you're at the end of your rope, I'm going to jump off this bridge and kill myself. And then John Bon Jovi walks up and talks to me. And it's like, hey, you got something to live for. It's almost like, God sent an angel, right? It's like, hey, if John Bon Jovi's telling me I shouldn't do this, maybe I shouldn't. I don't need John Bon Jovi to tell me who to vote for. But if I'm ever in dire straits and John says, hey, Steve, let's climb back over the ledge here, maybe I'm going to listen to that. But, pretty cool. Pretty cool. To be in the news for something like that reminded me of a few years ago. I remember seeing Richard Marx trending on Twitter. When I saw that, I said, oh my gosh, Richard Marx is dead. No, that's not what happened. He's married to Daisy Fuentes. You talk about winning in life. Her name is actually Daisy Cifuentes, but it was just kind of difficult to say Daisy Cifuentes. Daisy Fuentes is married to Richard Marx. Guy still plays arenas around the world. They were on a plane, and some passenger began to act erratically, and Richard Marx subdued them. Crazy. Never know. But nevertheless, it's always cool to find out that people that maybe we respect and admire are doing good things too. That's your top 10 list for today. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy on Twitter at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. You can get our great list on Spotify under that same handle. Just hit subscribe. You can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. And Campus Bookmart's got exactly what you're looking for when it comes to Mississippi State merchandise. Go in there and peruse their fine selections. You're going to wish you had some more bucks in your pocket. It's true. Christmas time is coming up. We're like 3 months and 3 days away from Christmas, Mom. Don't delay. Go ahead and get your family the best selection of merchandise known to mankind at Campus Bookmart. If you can't make it to town to peruse their fine selections, you can visit them online at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. Whether it be apparel, knickknacks, anything that you need to outfit your fan cave, you can find it at Campus Bookmart. Let's take a look back at the weekend that was. All right, we know how we did. South Carolina 50-7 winners over the Fighting Joe Moorheads of Akron. You got to think too, like how long are they? I mean, listen, all due respect to Joe, but how long is Akron going to, hey, this is it? Granted, they'll be in their league soon. They're 1-3 overall, 0-3, away from Akron. They've got some Mississippi players. Of course, Joe signed some guys up there, guys that didn't have a lot of other options. But you got to wonder. South Carolina is now 3-1. Could be 4-0. A lot of people think they should have won the LSU game. I'm one of those people. But the sledding's about to get a little tougher. Arkansas, and you don't just go into the Plains and come out of there with a dub, but they do. Arkansas, clearly an improved team. I don't know that Auburn is. 24-14 is your final. Peyton Thorne, quarterback, goes 13 of 22 for 213 yards and a couple touchdowns. And some controversy out there on the Twitters is Bo Wallace, former Ole Miss quarterback that played under Hugh Freeze, had some very critical things to say about Hugh Freeze. Maybe you've seen that, maybe you haven't. about how they're throwing quarterbacks under the bus. It's a little. I'm going to be honest with you. It's a little lowbrow though to see the Ole Miss media making those shots at Hugh Freeze. I know they're just prisoners of the moment, just trying to fit in with the rest of the Ole Miss fans. Hey, I got no beef with Ole Miss fans kind of, hating on Hugh Freeze. Some of them, it's a little bit hypocritical to me. But when these guys in the media, when they just so humbly and reverently bowed at the altar of Freeze and gobbled up whatever unholy sacraments he could offer, and now you're going to go out there and say, oh, the guy's just full of it? I mean, come on. Just shut up. Shut up. But big win for Arkansas. And trouble on the Plains. Kentucky handles Ohio 41-6. Of course, Ohio was a 2-1 team coming in there. They haven't been good on the road. They score a garbage touchdown there in the fourth quarter to prevent the shutout. But Kentucky took a little while to get the offense going, but it was 17-0 at the break. They pretty much dominated this game. Vandegrift 17-24 for 237 yards. Texas A&M struggled with Bowling Green. What is it about the MAC? Yeah, is the MAC just loaded this year? Because even the Toledo beat us and they lost to Western Kentucky, which just crushes our RPI, right? That's a joke if you missed it. But Texas A&M 26-20 winners, and this A&M team, they went to Florida and dominated Florida, and then they go home to play Bowling Green. Wasn't great. We talked about Connor Bazelak from Bowling Green. He goes 20 of 36 for 250 yards and a touchdown. Fanning Jr. up there, 8 receptions, 145 yards. So maybe there's some plays to be made down the field against Texas A&M. We'll see. But A&M, they score 6 points in the fourth. I mean, you look up at this ball game, and guys, Bowling Green was down 20-17 going to the fourth. LSU, 34-17 winners, but the big news out of there is Harold Perkins, the preseason Defensive Player of the Year in the Southeastern Conference, done for the year with an ACL tear. But LSU 3-1. A lot of people think, hey, Brian Kelly may be in trouble this year. I don't know that I believe that. I think they'll be good enough. Not going to be great, be good enough. Missouri survives a scare from Vanderbilt. I mean, you look up, it's 13-10 at the half, and then they come back and they put up 10 points right away and take the lead. And then Vanderbilt comes right back. It goes to double overtime. Vanderbilt with a chance to win it. They don't. Missouri wins it. Vanderbilt's clearly an improved team. Say what you want to. They're 2-2 and probably should have beat Georgia State. They didn't. Could have beaten Missouri. They didn't. But they're competing. Cook 23 of 37 in that ball game for 226 yards and a couple touchdowns. Noel ran for 199 yards for Mizzou. Luther Burden the third, 6 catches for 76 yards, a couple touchdowns. Big game between Tennessee and Oklahoma. It went pretty much as we expected with Tennessee winning this game. And honestly, I never felt that Tennessee was in trouble, and I don't think anybody else did either. It was 19-3 at the break. Oklahoma with a couple scores late to kind of shorten the margin a little bit. But Tennessee wins 25-15. Josh Heupel winning the homecoming. Good for him. Ole Miss all over Georgia Southern, 52-13. Ole Miss comes out of the gate at 17-0. And you look up and it's like, hey, Georgia Southern going to hang in here a little bit. It's 24-7, and you knew as well as I do that that Ole Miss offense, you can only keep them down for so long, and they're going to make you pay, and they did. Jackson Dart, 22 of 31 for 382 yards and 4 touchdowns. Parrish Jr., 13 carries for 89 yards and a score. Trey Harris, 11 for 225 and 2 touchdowns. The big separator, they had a big fade route, and Trey Harris just made the catch. The DB tried to make a play, and it was just nobody out there that could run with him. It's a big game. In Texas, in Arch Manning's first ever college start, they beat UL Monroe 51-3. Arch Manning expected to start against Mississippi State this week. They're saying Quinn Ewers not going to be back until the Red River Shootout in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, I guess. They'll play us this week, have an open date, and then they'll have Oklahoma. But, yeah, I mean, just right out of the gate, it's 21-0 before anybody sits down. Pretty crazy. UL Monroe tacks on a field goal there in the second quarter and shut out the rest of the game. But that's your scores. And, again, we picked Texas, obviously. We picked Ole Miss, obviously. We picked Tennessee. We picked Missouri to win, too, but it was closer. I lose that on the spread on the Genes page thing. LSU wins, picked them. A&M win. We lose the spread there. We picked Florida. We picked Kentucky. We picked Auburn to win and South Carolina to win. So just one loss last week. But, again, I'm not exactly sure what to expect from this Auburn team. Those are the things you look at and you begin to kind of wonder. What's really happening there? I don't think anybody's in trouble. But looking ahead to this week a little bit, kind of our sneak peek at this week's games. Kentucky will travel to Ole Miss. That'll be an 11 a.m. kick on ABC. Arkansas will travel to Arlington to take on Texas A&M. That's one of my favorite SEC games of the year, to be honest with you. And after what we saw this past week, you might pick Arkansas to win, right? This is a big game. It's a pivotal game. If Arkansas wins this thing and they're 4-1 and 2-0 in the SEC, you got to start thinking about, hey, is Sam going to do enough to save his job? And Hunter Yurachek and those guys that were under fire last year for keeping Sam Pittman, and now he rewards them. It's something to consider, and Arkansas still got some tough games left to play. But if you win this one, you start thinking about maybe the Sam Pittman experiment's going to work if they can keep Bobby Petrino there and kind of keep him happy and out of trouble. Oklahoma is at Auburn. That's a tough pick right there, man. You just wonder which Auburn team's going to show up. I don't think Oklahoma's elite offensively, but neither is Auburn. This could be another one of those games that maybe the first 1 to 20 wins. Of course, Mississippi State is at Texas. It's a sellout crowd. They had over 102. They had the 5th largest crowd in school history to play Louisiana Monroe. This will be the first game in program history as a Southeastern Conference member. We expect a capacity crowd. Big game that night is Georgia and Alabama. Georgia's going to go to Alabama. We're going to find out who's for real here. I like Georgia in this game right now, but you got to go to Tuscaloosa, and it's a difficult place to play. But that'll be awfully interesting. South Alabama's at LSU, so obviously LSU wins that game. But could be an interesting week. We get into conference play. You start having these separation Saturdays where you start figuring out who's for real and who's kind of a pretender to the throne. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Listen, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse business is booming because Bulldog fans have kind of figured out that this is not worth keeping a secret anymore. Yeah, it's a great place to stay, and you're having a great time there, too. It's a great place to be when you're in town for a ball game weekend. And the midweek business has picked up, too. So if you're bringing a work crew to town, rather than go out there and get 5 hotel rooms, consider this. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse could be your place to stay. It'd be nice to have everybody together, right? Instead of scattered around or even in 5 hotel rooms in the same establishment. Nothing against hotels, but if you're looking to save a few bucks and then have more of a down-home place to stay, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse is your answer. Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Their Facebook page will auto-populate. You can look through the pictures. You can see all the amenities that are available to you and your guest. You got that great fire pit area, the back porch area, the full-service kitchen, the wet bar. Big living room area, too. 5 bedrooms, 2 bath. And neatly positioned just about 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. So, like if it's coming from ball game weekend, you can do your tailgating right there. Rather than having to pack everything up, bring it back and forth to campus, it's just so much more convenient. So be sure and check that out next time that you're contemplating a stay in the Golden Triangle, whether it be a ball game weekend or not. If you're just thinking about making a trip to Starkville and enjoying Starkville for the glory and majesty that it is, and you bring a large group with you, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse is the way to go. Now, when you Google that, some booking options are going to come up. You're going to see VRBO, Airbnb, and you're going to see the Evolve website. Pick Evolve, and I got a promo code for you. It's BSR10. Beautiful Steve Robertson 10. BSR, the number 10. BSR 10 gets you 10% off your stay. Now, maybe I ain't got it like y'all. Maybe you don't need a promo code, but I do. I love having the promo code. I work hard for my money. I don't want to give that stuff away. So when we can save you a few bucks on this show, we certainly want to. That's the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, I want to spend a few minutes here just kind of talking about, kind of where we are, right? And listen, we talked about pain on the top 10 list. This is really, look, when you see your fellow Bulldog fans beginning to kind of, kind of go off the reservation a little bit, right? And they get angry and they're prisoners of the moment and they tweet stuff, and it's kind of like, there are some people out there that's what they embrace. And I got some friends, man, I love them to death. But they're constantly forecasting failure. Constantly. And it's not just with sports, it's everything. It reminds me of a story I heard in AA years ago, and I have shared this so many times with so many people, right? This old gentleman, we were talking, and he goes, he said, I went to a high school dance, and I saw this beautiful girl across the way. And I sat there, and I kind of contemplated, man, I would love to know her and dance with her. And he said, I already know she's going to say no, so I ain't going to waste my time or the embarrassment, right? She's going to say no. And he said he thought to himself, I'm already not dancing with her. And so he went and asked her. And he goes, you know what? She said yes. And she's at my house right now. All these years later, right? And that's the thing, so much of that in life, like we say in AA all the time, there are two kinds of people. There are those that are going to think they're going to make it and those that think they won't. And the funny thing is they're both right. And so I'm just going to encourage you, no matter what you say on social media, that kind of stuff, we're not going to get anywhere if we're pulling against each other, right? And so one of the things that I have tried to do in recovery, and it is a challenge for me, is to love people where they are. And acceptance is not approval. I can accept the fact that you say things, right, that I don't agree with. I don't approve of it, but I also don't have to be the constant corrector, right? And so we are in a mess right now. And it's not a mess of Jeff Levy's making. We went out, we hit the portal. Of course, there was a lot of stuff that was already done in the portal as far as big name players before Jeff even got here. And we got to hit the ground running and try to put a staff together and set up visits and stuff. We did the best we could. But we didn't do enough. And we knew that we didn't do enough. But I think now that we've seen this product on the field, especially we didn't do enough on defense. And then on top of that, some of the guys we got like Diego Brumfield and Trey, right? Yeah, they've been hurt. And so it's like even though maybe we were a little bit short of the mark, some of the guys we did get, we've kind of been handicapped with injury. My hope is the Blake Shapen injury, as terrible as that is, and as crippling as that may prove to be for us, will be a rallying cry for the fan base. It's like, hey, let's just kind of lay our arms down for a minute. But I say it on the show all the time. There are some people out there, they don't always have a healthy way of expressing their frustration. I just encourage you not to engage, right? Let them deal with it the way they want to deal with it. And sometimes on message boards, I get caught up in that stuff too. But the reality of it is that every one of us has a responsibility to play. And again, here's the thing, and there's no getting by this. I was born into this, as many of you were. And we grew up with our parents, our dad, taking us to ball games. When State was playing at my dad's house, it was the biggest thing going on, and you didn't talk. Whether we're listening to Jack Crystal on the radio or we're watching a rare broadcast on ESPN or ABC or whatever, you watched the game, and that was the focus of everything. You didn't talk during the game unless you're talking about the game. And we'd prefer if you held your comments until the commercial break. I mean, this is how it was. There was a reverence to it all. And I understand when people get angry, it's not because they dislike Mississippi State. And I think that's how it comes off sometimes. They love Mississippi State as much as you and I do. It's just they're tired of the pain. Guys, I am sick and tired of losing. I am. I'm sick and tired of losing. Last year was terrible. You know, the biggest thing about last year, right, was Greg Knox, an interim coach, riding the four-wheeler through the locker room before the Southern Miss game, and we came out and we beat those guys. And it was a game for a while, but we beat those guys. And all of a sudden you had a little hope again. It was like, hey, I know Greg's not going to be the coach moving forward, but he got those kids ready to play. They played hard for each other. They played hard for the seniors, and they go out and play the Egg Bowl, and they played hard in that game too. And that's the one thing at Mississippi State that we always expect. No matter how talented you are, no matter how well coached you are, we want you to play with effort. You know, one of my favorite, is all these high school teams. They have their summer workout shirts or whatever, My favorite one is, says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And we're not very talented on defense. And I don't know that we're especially talented on the offensive line. You got a lot of guys out there getting substantial snaps for the first time in their career. And maybe they're more talented than experienced. But here's what I do know. I know that we can work hard the rest of the way. And I know we've worked hard to this point. But when things get tough, that's when you really find out who you are. That's also when you find out who's really in your corner. Everybody can say, I'll do whatever I can to help you until you need something. It's just words, right? We've all been there. Had some down times in life, and you feel so alone. And so I think it's an obligation that we have to each other to remind each other, hey, we're not alone. We're in this thing together. You know what? And people are like, but Steve, there's all these buyouts and coaches and there's NIL and everything else. That's true. But there is Mississippi State, an institution that we all love dearly. Those uniforms are still maroon and white. We still play at Davis Wade Stadium. And listen, I get it. We have some people that, they may be rent-a players. I'm grateful that they're here, and I appreciate their contributions to Mississippi State. But things aren't good right now, and there's no sugarcoating that, right? And again, it's not just, hey, we're talent deficient. We're making some mistakes on the coaching side too. And you expect some of that with a first-year coach and a first-year staff. I still believe in Jeff Lebby. And I can promise you, this portal season, we're going to be a lot more aggressive because we're going to have continuity. We're going to be able to kind of start doing our due diligence because, this is what happens. People start reaching out. Hey, so-and-so is going to go in the portal. You're going to have interest. Well, we didn't get many of those phone calls last year because of the fact that we fired our head coach after the A&M game, and we had an interim, and they didn't have anything to say. They didn't have anything to offer. They couldn't even say that they had a position on the new staff. That's important for everybody to understand. And so I thought last portal season was good. Of course, now that we're, 4 games into the season, it may not be as good as we thought and certainly not as good as we hoped. But again, some injuries have played a factor too. We're going to get some players. I think we're going to have a very exciting December. It's going to take a while to get there. And I can't promise you we're going to win many games, if any more games the rest of the way. Right now you look at it and say, we should probably beat UMass. But you know what? Michael O'Brien, he may prove to be better than we think as a freshman. We know that long term we feel like, hey, we've got something here. But, the future's here now. And he didn't sign up for this, but you know what? He's been practicing every day. He tweeted out earlier, hey, block out the noise. It's pretty apparent that he's going to be under center when we go to Texas. And that's going to be it. Hey, we're up against it, man. It's the truth. It's not like going to A&M last year. We went to A&M and thought we had a chance to win, and we returned the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. We're like, hey, okay, well, let's go. They got Marcel Reed, a third-team quarterback, under center. Hey, Max Johnson's hurt. We got a shot here, and we got absolutely destroyed. We may get destroyed against Texas. But the main thing that I want to see is us to go out there and this team to look like we know what we're doing and do the best we can to give Michael Van Buren a chance to be successful. But that's not just about the players and the coaches. It's about us too. We got to hold the rope here. You want to talk about hurting recruiting, right? Losing hurts recruiting more than anything else. fan apathy is right behind it. I think back to those early Lou Holtz years at South Carolina. Guys, they went winless in the Southeastern Conference back-to-back years and sold out Williams-Brice every single week. So it's not atypical, right, that people would just kind of say, you know what, hey, I love being around the other Bulldog fans. I love being on campus. I love being in Starkville. And you know what? This year is not going to amount to much of anything when it comes to wins and losses. And I can accept that. That doesn't mean that I'm accepting mediocrity. It's just like I'm going to show my devotion to this institution. Because you know what? Mississippi State needs you now really more than it does when we're winning. Because we have to show people what it is to be a Bulldog. Anybody can pack out a stadium when you're winning. You know, the truest of the true maroon are going to be there through thick and thin. And so my question is, are you true maroon? I am. And I hate losing. I hate it. But we're not making a coaching change. And I'm not going to sit here and say we won't make any staffing changes. I mean, that tends to happen in year 2 with just about every staff. It's just kind of how things work. You know, when you got a brand new coach comes in, sometimes you got to help him put a staff together. And a lot of people have said, you know what, hey, he went out and hired his friends. Yeah, you do the same. Well, we need to go get a proven defensive coordinator. And you know what? That's one of those things, too. The most important hire that an offensive-minded coach makes is the DC, right? But my question is, how many people out there going to pack up their family and say, you know what, I'm going to go work with a first-year head coach. Yeah, I want to go be a part of that, right? And you say, but Steve, what about the money? Well, the thing about that is that's always everybody's solution. Just give him a blank check and make him say no. Well, we can't afford to do that. I'm not poor-mouthing. I'm just telling you the truth. And so it is what it is. I can't make it any better or any worse than it is. And I give you no quarter when it comes to that sort of thing. It's going to be a difficult year. We knew it was going to be a challenging year. And then now we've lost 3 games that we thought we had a chance to win, and certainly 2 games we hoped to win. And now we've lost our quarterback. But let's not use that as an excuse to just say, you know what, forget about Mississippi State. You got to do what you think is best. But I encourage you, when Mississippi State is on the field, we need you in the stands. We do. And really now more than ever. If you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com. And we're about 3 weeks away, something like that, about 3.5 weeks away. The book's being shipped. And we'll get them out to you right away. And dutynoblebook.com, anything ordered through dutynoblebook.com will be signed. And all of my other titles are there, all my sports titles, and When the Bottom Falls is there too, so you can kind of get caught up on everything, kind of complete your collection. Limited quantities of villains and alpha dogs, though. Be prepared for that. And come float with us. We had a great weekend and a lot of new members. Things are going great. Matter of fact, we've done some radio advertising, seen some response from that too. But had a chance to meet some Boneyard listeners this week when I was up at the spa. And that's always a nice thing, too, when people come and say, hey, Steve, we want to support you and your family, but also, too, kind of give us a chance to rest and recuperate a little bit and do something maybe that it's not available in our town. It's True Rest of Starkville. You can find us on social media, True Rest of Starkville, on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. You can dial 662-268-7601 to get formation or to book. And, again, we're recording this on Sunday night. And so no Jeff Levy comments. I wanted to get the show up early because I think Monday's going to be an eventful day. And I want to be able to kind of get right to all that. So you guys are probably a little bit surprised, but here we are. The Sunday night Boneyard. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies and people can see a difference in the way we live.